some people have been interested in how my solar mailbox notifier works. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I don't want to take it apart. I'll do the best to explain how it was made without. Anyway, here's the Solar Motion step light. This solar panel used to have an LED array right here. I ripped that off. I just had to put a little silicone where the hole was to seal it up. Put that inside, drill a hole in the back of the mailbox in the back of the step light. Inside, the wires come. I'll put like a cable raceway or something. This cheap dollar store duct tape looks kind of tacky and it's coming off. But I just kind of put that behind to kind of tuck my wires up. But as you can tell, it's not sticking well or working well. We'll fix that. Anyway, the LED array I ripped off of it. Inside here is the reed switch, common, and the normally closed. There's two wires coming from the normally closed. One goes to the LED array, so when the door opens, it applies voltage to that. The other goes back to the wake up pin on the photon, which is in the step light back there, to wake it up and send the notification. When you close it, light goes out. We'll go inside, and I will show you basically a drawing of how this is all wired together. Sorry, I'm not good at editing videos, so I'm just trying to hustle around here so I don't have to cut and paste and all that. Anyway, here's my basically got solar panel. You'll need a diode, which is basically a one-way check valve for electricity. I had one that was laying around, but they're pennies if you need one from Radio Shack or whatever. Just keeps the battery from discharging at night when there's no solar energy coming in. It just keeps it electricity from flowing backwards. There is one on the circuit board that's in the step light. You could try and play with that and salvage it and cut the traces to the PIR sensor for motion and all that to deactivate it. I just ended up ripping it out because as I was soldering around, I kind of screwed it up. So I had one of these laying around anyways, so I just soldered one in there and just threw away the circuit board. So anyways, so from the positive on the solar, I go through the solar diode into the battery. I have those that spliced together, split off as it goes to the photon, the VIN pin or voltage in. The negative splits off and goes to the ground. Those two will power the photon. With the photon powered, there's a 3.3 volt pin, which photon has voltage regulators, and that pin will be regulated to 3.3 volts. And just I sent that out, and it goes all the way to the reed switch. That's what goes to the common on the reed switch. From there, when the reed switch is activated, it'll send voltage back to the wake up pin on the photon to wake it up and tell it to out of sleep and send its message that we've got mail. And it'll also send a positive signal to the LED array. Now the LED array I measured with a voltmeter. It was 3 volts even with the circuit board that was currently installed on the step lights. I found that 3.3 was close enough. Nothing's burned up or anything, so I just used the 3.3 off the photon, and to be honest with you, after it runs all the way to the reed switch in the mailbox, the voltage drop might be enough that it's putting it right where it wanted to be anyways. But I found that the 3.3 was powered it fine and there was no damaging or anything like that. Anyways, the negative from the LED light array I just sent all the way back to another one of the ground pins on the photon. There's multiple ground pins on there. So that's the wiring, pretty straightforward, super simple. If you want to see some of this stuff on a photon, if you've never seen one before, there's another photon I've got laying around here. You see the bottom left hand corner, there's the VIN pin or voltage in, that comes from the battery, and then ground right next to it, so those two will power it. Top left hand corner, there's the 3.3 volt pin, that's the one I sent all the way to the common switch on the reed switch. Couple over from there is another ground pin that I used for the LED light array. You can see bottom there, almost in the middle, closer to the left, WKP, the wake up pin. That's the pin I sent back to for waking it up. You see the photon also has got a UFL connector, the bottom right hand corner there, the brass one. If you need an external Wi-Fi antenna, it would support that. I find that the internal one's powerful enough. It gets the job done. Especially with it being in that plastic box like that, it gets plenty good signal. So as for the code, stand by, what's it? I'll log into my stuff. Go to the Particle Build website. Makes it super simple. You could probably add all sorts of stuff to this to make it better. I kept it super simple. So my setup, there's nothing. You have to have a setup and a loop as far as these Arduino programs go. My loop, so all it does when it turns on is it says, hey, publish an event called mail and with a value of on, and then wait 5 seconds. Basically that's the delay 5,000. That's just to make sure the message gets sent before it goes to sleep, make sure it gets out there, and then just go to sleep. And go to sleep until the wake up pin, the WKP, is rising or gets a rising voltage. My understanding of that section of code does two things. It kind of sets the internal, it's why I don't think I have to in the setup. I didn't, but I guess you could enable the pull down resistor. It has an internal resistor in the Photon, so you don't have to put an external pull up or pull down resistor. Because I set that pin to say sleep until wake up pin is rising, I'm pretty sure that activates the pull down resistor on the Photon. I'm not entirely sure. Sorry. So don't quote me on that. I have found that I haven't had any floating or weird times it's sending me the notification. It's always been spot on with when the mailman comes. So I found no reason to do anything different. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So it's been working great just with this super simple code. So anyways, from there, I sent it to Stringify. And I have basically 2 flows to run this. So this one just at a certain date and time, 1 in the morning, whatever you want to do, I have it set a variable for my mailbox back to 0. The reason I did this is I don't want it going off every time my mailbox opens. I only want it to notify me the first time of the day, not when I go out to get the mail, etc. I just want to know the first time of the day it's open because that's when the mailman's coming. My second flow is basically the trigger is from the maker channel. So when I get a maker event, I guess I should go back a little bit. On the Photons IDE, I'm not logged into there, but anyways, it's pretty simple. You basically can just set, you don't have to do anything with coding or anything. Just right in their IDE, it just says you can send a webhook. You can create a webhook, and I said create a webhook that when the event mailbox is triggered with the contents of on, just like we sent in our code, to send a web request. I had it send a web request to one of the Stringify's makers web requests. You could do it to whatever service you wanted. So this bottom root basically says, hey, if the web request fires and the variable is 0, so basically the first time of the day, then send me a notification and reset the variable. The top basically says if it was triggered that I said, hey, it opened, but it had already been open for the day, then just keep counting up so you can get a counter of the number of times the mailbox opened if you care for whatever reason. And that's it. I get a notification. If you really wanted to get this into SmartThings to do other things, the easiest way, so you wouldn't need a device handler, would be probably just a virtual switch so that you could trigger it to turn on or off the virtual switch, and then you could do whatever you wanted with it in SmartThings from Stringify. Anyways, I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask.